Hey everybody, my name is Robbie Wallace and I'm here to teach you about the Elaboration Likelihood Model for teaching presentation 2. And the Elaboration Likelihood Model is also known as ELM, and it's a model of persuasion measuring how attitudes are formed and changed. And this theory was actually developed by two theorists in 1981 known for this theory. And then the names of the theorists behind this model are Richard Petty and John Cacioppo. The elaboration likelihood model distinguishes between two routes of persuasion: the central route, where the subject considers an idea logically, versus the peripheral route, in which the audience uses pre-existing traits or visuals based from the presenter on how to decipher between which ideas they choose to identify with, or how they're persuaded based on superficial qualities from the presenter. If you've heard of the elaboration continuum, this is a theory that piggybacks ELM, which ranges from low thought to high thought, also known as low elaboration versus high elaboration. The theory of ELM is based on persuasion and attentiveness, according to what ways people are persuaded based on their level of attention. This process takes on what are known as routes, as previously mentioned, the central route and the peripheral route. And when we are motivated and able to pay attention, we are more likely to make logical, conscious thinking decisions to form a concrete decision. And this can lead to a permanent change in our attitude or opinion as one makes their argument, which again is the central route of motivation. In other cases, we can take the peripheral route. And in the peripheral route, one does not pay attention or have specific backing toward the persuasive argument, but are more or less swayed on other means, such as the superficial characteristics, or whether or not they like the speaker. And that could be the speaker's tone of voice, their mannerisms, body language, their speech or pronunciation has various meanings behind why they could like the speaker. And even if there's a change, it could only be temporary. And this is with the peripheral route. In certain cases, temporary change can be permanent and can continue to make further change towards their decision. And one of the best ways to motivate people to take the central route in making their decision is messaging, as the presenter is messaging to the audience or to a specific audience member in order to persuade them better. People are more motivated to use the central route of ELM when they have an issue of personal relevance to them. And these folks depend on cues and even personal responses from the presenter to find that their particular route is the central route based on the speaker. ELM has other factors involving behavior such as mood and sensitivity too. When people feel good, they tend to want to remain feeling good, and which is why they would want to avoid things that would make them sad or bring them down, which would make them take a peripheral route stance. Whereas someone who is currently in a negative or depressed state, or even a neutral mood, mind you, would most likely take the central route. And when you're presenting or lecturing to an audience, it's important to be engaging, know who your demographic is, know what your credibility is, and depending on your focus of the audience to buy in on your argument in particular, or where your stance is and what your arguments are. Using Petty and Cacioppo's theory of ELM will determine the response that you get. When you have your audience's attention, it's important to be logical and present a compelling argument in order to win them over. This will enforce their decision-making skills to take effect. If, however, your audience is not really paying attention to you, you can choose to distract them using a joke to put them in a good mood to raise their attentiveness. And you can also be discreet about using cues such as trendy clothing, wild hairstyles, an impromptu, performance in your body language, and then use your introductory statement to compel them. And at this point, you may have a good opportunity to lead them into your ideas, and this will, in some ways, manipulate the topic and the audience to appease an audience. So I've uploaded a guide that's also can be used as a map. Well, it is a map based on the theory of ELM, and I can walk you through it if you want to view the attachment at this point. There's 7 boxes on this map, and it goes over ELM in a persuasive attempt to message appropriately. And it breaks it down into 3 factors, so based on your audience, based on the process or the approach, and the outcome of the process. So going over from left to right, you have your persuasion attempt in the essential message, and then it breaks it into 2 pathways. You have your motivation for your audience, whether it's broken into high motivation or low motivation, and your ability to message appropriately, what your audience feedback is, whether the approach was focused and there was a quality effort in that approach, or if you're using a superficial approach to gauge your audience appropriately. It really just depends on the level of attentiveness from your audience. And then finally, the outcome. So whether you have lasting change or if it's a temporary change. Feel free to use this in any form of your persuasive speech coming up. I wish you all the best, and I hope that you got a decent amount or an understanding of the ELM model based off of my presentation. Thank you.